To be a fast challenge running Pokemon, you need high speed, high attack and relatively good HP. And unfortunately for poor Shuckle, it has none of these. However, a challenge run is not all about getting the quickest time. Sometimes the only achievement a Pokemon needs to make is getting over the finish line, no matter how long it takes. And just before we get into this run, I want to say thank you to everybody for your very kind words on the Porygon 2 video. That really was a run and a half, and if you haven't seen that run yet, please do consider giving that a watch, as there may be spoilers throughout this video for the results of the last run. I've got to be honest, I was very pleasantly surprised with how Porygon 2 handled. Having Sharpen instead of Defense Curl really helped it out, and hopefully we can take some of the momentum that we got from Porygon 2 and shove it onto Shuckle, because this is absolutely going to be one of our toughest runs to date. Shuckle has very little going for it that would make it a suitable challenge Pokemon, but we'll take a look at the stats anyway and see what we can do. So as always, we start at level 5 and this time we have 17 HP. We're holding a berry and our moves are Constrict and Withdraw. We've got 7 in attack, 28 in defense, 6 in special attack, 28 in special defense, and just 5 in speed. And as the graphics come up, you will see just how lopsided Shuckle's stats are. Base 20 HP, base 10 attack, 230 in defense, just 10 in special attack, 230 in special defense, and then only 5 in speed. That means we are not going to be outspeeding anything for the lion's share of this run. There might be points where we get a little bit over leveled and we are able to outspeed, but for the most part we're going to be taking hits first. And then when we do hit, we're not hitting very hard at the moment at all. Against that first Centret, it took us 13 Constricts to knock it out, so we're going to have to play very smart, and in the early part of this run until we get Headbutt, Struggle is going to be our best move, especially if we can combine it with a first turn Wrap. That way we're doing fixed damage instead of having to worry about our very low attack stat. But we're now against the first rival battle, and look at how painfully slow that health bar is going down. We're not going to knock out this Totodile in under 4 more Constricts. We're going to have to go to Struggle, and then you'll see just how much of an improvement Struggle is. We're going to be taking a lot of recoil damage in this run. However, the recoil damage we take is only roughly equivalent to the damage we would take if our defences were lower, so it's just kind of self-inflicting the damage instead of having the opponent do it for us. But after a bit of a war of attrition, we eventually managed to defeat the first rival battle, and we'll go over to Professor Elm's laboratory and tell the policeman that his name is Triple Question Mark. Now, it's at this point in the run I want to state that for the very first time in a long time, I'm not going to be able to show all the battles unabridged, and that is purely a time-saving measure. A lot of these battles are very long wars of attrition where not much happens, and then we get a status condition and it's all over. So in order for this run to flow as smoothly as possible, I've decided to cut out some of the less interesting resets. However, for important battles like our first gym battle with Falkner, we're absolutely going to show the attempts where we made meaningful progress. So we went in starting with the Struggle strategy, and it's looking like it's going to be a 4 or 5 shot against the Pidgey. However, we have the curse of the rock type striking again. We saw this in the very first run with Corsola, and we've seen it time and time again with rock-type Pokemon. That Mud Slap really does hit us hard, and it lowers our accuracy to such a degree where we're barely able to hit this Pidgeotto. He is just getting hit after hit after hit in, and he is still at full health himself. Falkner is absolutely a no-go right now. Instead, we're going to take on Sprout Tower and get some experience up towards the top of the tower instead. And as we're taking on the sages climbing the tower, we grow to level 14 and learn our next level up move. This one is Encore. It's going to be a very circumstantial move, but there might be times where it comes in useful. Our reward, of course, for defeating all of the elders in Sprout Tower is Flash, so we don't have to come back for that later, and now with a few extra levels behind us, let's take on Falkner for the second time. We are now level 15, we are still using the Struggle strategy, and let's see if it makes this battle any smoother. We still get Mud Slaps a couple of times, and that means our accuracy is dropped against the Pidgeotto, but it was just a 3 shot against the Pidgey this time instead. Gust isn't doing too much damage at all, and when combined with the berry, we stand a very good chance of just hitting those occasional pot shots against the Pidgeotto to knock it out and finally be out of Violet City in just over 20 minutes. We grow to level 16 at the end of the battle. We've defeated Falconer in a time of 20 minutes and 9 seconds. That's the first badge of 16 acquired, and goodness me, if it's 20 minutes per gym badge, we're going to be here until next week. We'll pick up that all-important Paralysed Cure Berry outside of Violet City, and just before Union Cave we take on Birdkeeper Peter, and this is one of those instances where I got a little bit overconfident with Shuckle. We were still using the struggle strategy, and we took an unforced reset against the Spearow. We knocked him out in our second attempt though, and we can make our way through the Union Cave, pick up the Poison Cure Berry because that's going to be incredibly important in our runs, and then make our way into the Ilex Forest. Of course, in the Ilex Forest we're going to catch our HM friends. First up today is Paris. Paris is going to be helping us out with Cut, Flash, Sweet Scent and Dig. And the second HM friend, of course, is Psyduck. Psyduck's going to be helping us out with Surf, Strength, Whirlpool and Waterfall. And with both of those safely caught for another run, we'll make our way into the gym, where we have Bug Catcher Benny waiting for us. And this is one of those battles where I'm going to abridge it. I thought we'd be strong enough to take on the Beedrill, but we weren't. Fury Attack hit 5 times in a row many times, and we have to go on the grind. And unfortunately for us, the best place to grind is actually with a fishing rod in Slowpoke Quail. It's one of the very few times when Magikarp comes in useful, because it's a level 10 encounter, so it's giving us half decent experience, but we do not run the risk of getting knocked out. And after growing to level 21, we were able to get through Benny, and we are on to Bugsy, our second gym leader together, the Bug-type specialist who leads with Metapod. And honestly, this battle was relatively hopeless from the start. I could have gone in with a bunch of withdrawals, however our HP was not good enough when we had to struggle our way through, and the likelihood of Bugsy getting a critical hit from the Scyther or any other Pokemon was so high that I just gave it a few goes and then went back to the fishing. The only solace during all of that fishing was finding the occasional Goldeen. Goldeen does have Peck, which is neutral, however we're able to knock it out in just a couple of struggles each time. We grow to level 22, and then I change up my strategy and plan a little bit. Instead of going for Bugsy, we're going to teach Mudslap over Constrict, and we're going to give the second rival battle a go instead. He's going to have a super effective move against us, however our huge special defense should hopefully combine with Croconaul's relatively bad special attack to make us take not too much damage at all. We got Hypnosis on our first attempt against the Ghastly, so I took a reset, and we're able to two-shot the Ghastly on our second attempt. We then get to using up our remaining Mudslaps against the Croconaul. As Falconer very wisely says, Mudslap is both offensive and defensive, because not only are we chipping away at this Croconaul, we're also reducing his accuracy right the way down to 0, and then we can get to struggling. And the good thing is, this is only the second to last battle where we'll need to go for struggle. After we defeat Bugsy, we get access to Headbutt, and we are going to multiply our attacking power by 7 and no longer take any recoil damage at all. We're just about able to scrape through the Zubat, and that is Rival 2 done and dusted in a time of 42 minutes and 20 seconds. I then go into the Ilex Forest to pick up Cut now, so I don't forget it later on, and then we can get back to the fishing grind. Our target is level 23, because at level 23 we learn one of the most important moves for us throughout this entire run. Safeguard is going to stop us getting status conditions for 5 turns after we use it, and against some of the later battles in this run, it's going to prove to be very invaluable, so it's a move we're going to keep on our learn sets from beginning to finish. But now that we are level 23, I can tell you for the second time that this is Bugsy. He's our second gym leader together, the Bug-type specialist who leads with Metapod. And after a false start, we get to mud-slapping this Metapod away. I decide to try and go without struggle for our first attempt, but it all falls apart against his Kakuna. We run out of Safeguard, he hits us with a Poison Sting, and he gets the poison off on us. That puts us on a clock for the rest of the battle, and it is literally unwinnable at that point. So I decide to change where I'm doing the grind. I swap the clock back to daytime, and that means in the Ilex Forest we're able to encounter the Cocoon Pokemon. Of course, these only have Harden on their learn set, and that means we can grind an awful lot quicker than we did against the fish. And at level 24 I go back to Bugsy and say surely third time must be the charm. He still leads with Metapod, but this time we're going straight in with struggle, because sometimes the best strategy is just the simplest one. We don't have to worry about anything like choosing a move, we've just got to press A and hope for the best. For some reason he sends out Scyther second this time, and that really did confuse me. Fury Cutter built and built and built though, and we did get knocked out. So we'll try again. This is now reset number 10, and unfortunately for Paul Shuckle, it looks like we're going to be getting our second badge in over the 1 hour mark. We have not had a Pokemon this slow in quite some time. We're back through the Metapod though, and we are onto the Kakuna. We get a lucky critical hit with Struggle, and another lucky critical hit knocks it out, so we're on 30 HP for the Scyther. We just have to hope for the best at this point. Scyther misses his Fury Cutter, and that means that we have an in. The Fury Cutter has to build back up again, and when combined with yet another critical hit, we knock out the Scyther, and we get our second badge in a time of 59 minutes and 42 seconds. Shuckle just about squeezed in its second badge under the hour mark, and I was so proud of it. And now that we've defeated Bugsy, we can start making our way through the Ilex Forest. Of course, having taken care of Rival 2 and the Cutman, we make a beeline straight for the green-haired man staring at the tree, and we teach Headbutt in place of Encore. Encore proved to be much less useful than I thought it would throughout the course of this run, so we're going to replace it with a move with some actual attacking power behind it. And just before we get into Goldenrod City, we're going to catch our third HM friend. This one is Abra, who's going to be helping us out with Teleport. And with that safely tucked away in the bag, we'll make our way into Goldenrod City proper, where we'll pick up the bike. Shuckle might be a very slow Pokemon, but I want to give it the ride of its life and let it move around the Johto region quicker than it ever has done before. While we're heading north out of Goldenrod, we'll pick up Kenya from the guard at the gate, make our way into the national park, and we are going to grab the Quick Claw and glue it to Shuckle as if its life depended on it. That Quick Claw is going to give us roughly a 23% chance of attacking first on any particular turn, and goodness me, those chances feel like hitting the jackpot at this point. We also pick up the Dig TM from the National Park, have a chat with Floria, and we pick up Rollout, which we replace Mudslap with straight away. And now we teleport back to Goldenrod City, where we are ready to take on our third gym already, just 5 minutes after we took on our second gym. This is Whitney, the normal type leader, who leads with Clefairy. We start with a safeguard to make sure that Clefairy doesn't get a pesky zap cannon in, and she locks herself into Outrage. We get a lucky critical hit to knock out the Clefairy, and we are already on to the Miltank. It's Rollout versus Rollout, but just 2 hits knocks it out, and we are through Whitney in a time of 1 hour, 5 minutes and 27 seconds. And that absolutely was a momentous occasion for our Shuckle, because it was the first gym battle he got through on his very first attempt. Of course, our reward for defeating Misty is the Squirts bottle, and then we can say hello and goodbye to Sudowoodo. We cycle north into Ecruteak City, where it's time to take on the Kimono Girls. And of course, I will always show you the battle where we have the type disadvantage if we have one against the Kimono Girls, and in this instance it was against the Vaporeon. We took just under half health worth of damage throughout the battle, and after defeating all 5 of the Kimono Girls, we grabbed Surf from the man staring at the stage. And now let's take a trip east towards Mahogany Town and the Lake of Rage, where our first rare candy is waiting for us. This rare candy is hiding in a tree next to the Hidden Power Man's house, and while we're here we're also going to grab Hidden Power. I've tried to mix up my Hidden Power types recently, but in this instance we absolutely are going for Hidden Power Ground. It really is the best choice all around for Shuckle, and with a Pokemon with as many disadvantages as Shuckle, I think it's only fair to give Shuckle some kind of advantage. After that, we teleport back to Ecruteak, go west to the Moo Moo Farm, pick up the berry, pick up strength from the man in the cafe in Olivine, and we ascend the lighthouse to have a little chat with Jasmine. I show her my Shuckle and she has no idea what I'm on about. Instead she says go and get some secret potion for Ampharos, and I begrudgingly oblige, but I say it's got to be on my terms. Before I get over to Cyanwood City, I've got to face the rival Immorti, and that's exactly what we're doing now. We're against our third rival battle, and we get licked by the Haunter. I don't know what the Rivals AI was doing here, but we did not get cursed, and that really put the battle in our favour. Even with rollouts missing against the Magnemite, Supersonic missed a couple of times from him, and we're already onto the Zubat. We finally get confused, but rollout hits and we get through Rival 3 on our very first attempt. And these last few battles really have gone to show what a good move can do, even for a weak attacking Pokemon like Shuckle. We've gone from hitting our head against the wall for every significant battle to being able to make quite good progress in relatively quick time. So let's try and keep this momentum up as we take on our 4th gym leader together. This is of course Morty, the ghost type leader who leads with Ghastly. Ghastly leads with Curse, and that is an issue for us. We have high defences, but we have nothing against fixed damage moves, and this really is Shuckle's Achilles heel, so we're going to have to rely on a lot of luck, and just a couple of resets later, that's exactly what happened. We managed to get 3 critical hits within the space of 3 turns in order to get through this battle without taking a single HP's worth of damage, and for that we get the Fog badge in a time of 1 hour 22 minutes and 42 seconds. And that means we are now halfway through our Jotonian gym badges. Let's sail across the open seas towards Cyanwood City. The first thing we do in Cyanwood is pick up the secret potion from the man in the dodgy shop, and then we'll take on Chuck. Chuck is our 5th gym leader together, a fighting type specialist who leads with Primeape. And this is one of those battles where the bug typing comes in very handy. It makes the fighting type neutral to us, and that instantly gives us a huge advantage compared to the other rock types we've taken to this gym in the past. We managed to get through the Primeape with the headbutting, but we instantly get sent to sleep by the Poliwrath. We're going to try again, this time using Rollout instead. Rollout might be resisted by both of his Pokemon, but it is a stab move that also builds and builds and builds in power. And the Rollout is timed to perfection to knock out 2/3 of Poliwrath's HP on the first set, and then we can easily survive to build up another set of Rollouts, and we get the Storm Badge in a time of 1 hour 27 minutes and 9 seconds. Our other reward for defeating Chuck is the Fly HM from his wife, which we use straight away to make our way back to the Lake of Rage where the Red Gyarados is waiting for us. And the Red Gyarados is another one of those Pokemon that can hit us in our Achilles heel. Dragon Rage is a fixed damage move, and that means we can only survive one of them from him. So we're going to have to hope for the best and just get that rollout to knock him out as quickly as possible. In a stroke of good fortune, it only took to our 2nd attempt to knock out the Gyarados, and that means we can have a chat with Lance the Liar with the Flyers. He shows us around the Mahogany Underground, and I'm pleased to report that nothing happened. So we'll skip to the parts where we get the Whirlpool HM, and we'll head straight into our 6th gym together. This is Price, the Ice-type leader who will lead with Seal. We're going to set up a safeguard on turn 1 to make sure that we don't get frozen for as much of this battle as possible, and then once again we're going to start rolling out. It takes just 3 turns of rollout to knock out the Seal, and then our 4th turn is high enough to knock Piloswine into healing range. The 5th turn knocks it out and we start all over again against the Dugong. We don't have anything to worry about now because he can no longer freeze us, and 3 shots later we knock him out and we get the Glacier Badge in a time of 1 hour 35 minutes and 27 seconds. It's at this point in the run that I like to do a little bit of housekeeping. So we're going to grab the rare candy outside of Sprout Tower, and we're also going to grab the PP up in Violet City at the same time. And then we'll take a cheeky little fly over to Goldenrod City. We'll head south over towards the daycare where we have a rare candy and a nuggets waiting for us. And then we'll fly back and head into the department store. In the department store, the lady at the desk is going to give us a return TM, and that's going to be a very powerful normal type move a little bit later on in the run. And now I think we've kept Jasmine waiting long enough for the secret potion, so we hand it to her. And we say, listen mate, there's absolutely no need to use secret potion this time. Have you seen the Pokemon we're running? It's a Shuckle for goodness sake, that's not going to hurt anything. She told me she'd think about it and we'd find out in battle. This is Jasmine, our 7th gym leader together, who leads with Magnemite. Magnemite is an easy one-shot with Hidden Power Ground, and we are on to the Steelix. And I think we have the answer to Jasmine's secret potioning. Back-to-back defense drops with the Iron Tail and 3 hitting in a row means that Jasmine absolutely has been on the secret potion once more. We're going to say no to that for now and go and get some more levels. The first thing we do is take on a Wild Tentacruel to get a few more levels, and at level 43 we actually try again, but it is much the same story. The Steelix kept on walling us, so just to save a little bit of time I'll skip to the next bit of grinding we did afterwards. And goodness me, we had to do a whistle-stop tour of Johto. Massive kudos to you in the comments section if you can identify exactly where I went around Johto from the battles I am showing you now. The progress was so bad with Jasmine that I realised our best strategy was just to take on as many trainers as possible. I avoided all of the trainers in the water between Olivine and Cianwood City, but literally every other trainer that was accessible to us got battled so that we could grow as high as possible. Jasmine proved to be the sticking point we were expecting at some point in this run, so it just made sense to overgrind to make the battle a little bit easier. We finally ran out of trainers against this Poliwhirl and we grew to level 47. And that is the level we're going to take back with us to the gym. So for the second time, this is Jasmine. She is the Steel-type trainer who leads with Magnemite. Magnemite, of course, is irrelevant in this battle. Hidden Power Ground is 4 times super effective. We are all about that Steelix. We just have to hope that Iron Tail misses enough times and we don't get too many defense drops. We've got the Soft Sand to help our cause. We got that just south of Goldenrod. And now we just have to cross our fingers and hope for the best. And sometimes miracles do happen. We get through the Steelix on 43 HP, the second Magnemite is a one-shot, and we earn our 7th badge in a time of 1 hour 54 minutes and 45 seconds. And with Jasmine out of the way at long last, we can head back to Goldenrod City where the 4th rival battle is waiting for us, and this time he's going to lead with Golbat. That's good for us in a sense because Golbat is weak to our rollout, however Golbat does outspeed us and manages to get the confusion off before we safeguard. It's only a 1-turn confusion and we can start rolling out, and it's 2 shots to knock out the Golbat. For Alligators next, and our first rollout takes off huge damage, but then we miss on our next couple of turns. That means we have to build it up all over again, and that means that Magnemite can come out, hit us with a Thunder Wave, hit us with a Sonic Boom, and I decide to take the reset. There was no way we were going to keep the consistency of rollout for the rest of this battle. And so we try again. This time we get wing attacked a couple of times from the Golbat, but we're still on 77 HP for the Feraligatr. For reasons beyond the realms of normal human comprehension, he goes for Rage instead of Water Gun, and that means we're on 75 HP for the Magnemite. We knock it out in 1 turn, and then we get the rollout building yet again for the Haunter. We're cursed as the Sneasel comes out, but Sneasel is weak to rock. We knock it out, and we are through our 4th rival battle in a time of 2 hours, 1 minute and 37 seconds. We'll go up to the tippy top of the radio tower where Marie gives us the pink bow, and we're also going to grab the radio card from the lady at reception. We'll fly over to Mahogany Town and make our way east into the ice path, and because we don't have an ice move on our learn sets, the only important item in here for us today is HMO7, which contains Waterfall. We teach Waterfall along with Whirlpool to our Psyduck, pop out the other side of the ice path and head straight into Blackthorn Gym. This is the only thing we've got to do in Blackthorn City, and once again we're against a stumbling block. The gym trainers Dragonair have Dragon Rage, and that of course is our Achilles heel being a fixed damage move. It's time to do the grind once again. We are currently at level 53 and we're going to try and get as many levels as possible to see if we can just about edge our way through to say hello to Claire at the very least. That middle chunk of Johto from Whitney through to Price was deceptively easy. We had a lot of good fortune there, but we now can no longer rely on good fortune alone. We have to be able to deal the damage as well as soak it up, and try and get a little bit of fortune with a Quick Claw and flinches along the way. And at level 55 we're just about able to do that against this Dragonair. He only hits us with 1 Dragon Rage, and that means we knock it out and we can take on Claire. And honestly, I think that Cool Trainer Mike was the real obstacle of this gym. Claire's Pokemon do not have a fixed damage move, so after a false start where we get paralysed on turn 1, we are able to set up a rollout. We use Safeguard on turn number 1 just to make sure we don't get paralysed throughout, and it's 3 shots to knock out Dragonair number 1. We are able to one-shot her Kingdra, and that just leaves 2 Pokemon left to go. And then disaster strikes, we get paralysed from the Dragon Breath. We also have no rollout left to go, so we're just going to have to hope for the best. We get a very lucky critical hit with Headbutt, we survive on 3 HP, and we get Claire's badge, the Rising badge, in a time of 2 hours, 18 minutes and 43 seconds. And we are at a point where I didn't think we would be with Shuckle. We are making our way to the Pokemon League. Before we take on the league, we're going to make a couple of changes to our learn set. The first thing we're going to do is say goodbye to Headbutts that served us very well throughout the early part of the run, and we'll say hello to Return in its place. And the second thing we're going to do is grab the Earthquake TM. That's going to give us 2 moves with over 100 base power. Even if we were still level 5 like we were at the very beginning of the run, we can now hit 10 times as hard as we were able to back then. And just before we enter the league, we of course get ambushed by the rival for the 5th time. This time, of course, he leads with Sneasel, and that means we're not going to be testing out our new move straight away. With Sneasel being weak to rock, Rollout is by far the best choice. It has quite high power against the Feraligatr to knock it out, and then on turn number 5 we get paralysed, but we're able to one-shot the Magneton as well. That leaves Haunter, Golbat and Kadabra left to go, and here is where it starts to go wrong. The Haunter confuses us, so we have Parafusion combined with Curse, and we are struggling to get any moves off whatsoever. We needed a high power rollout to knock out the Golbat, but it didn't happen, and we're back to square one. This time I decided to go for the return strategy and not rely on the build up of the rollout. We need to try and avoid being statused at all costs. So we just brute force our way through his first 2 Pokemon, and we're on 56 HP for the Magneton. We go for an Earthquake and we outspeed and we knock it out in 1, so he sends out Haunter. Haunter's another one-shot with Earthquake, and that brings us on to Kadabra. We swap to Return for Kadabra and knock it out in a single hit, and his final Pokemon is Golbat. We carry on with Return as he goes for Wing Attack instead of Confuse Ray. We knock it out in 2 turns, and we are through the 5th rival battle in a time of 2 hours, 28 minutes and 3 seconds. And with that, we can make our way into the Indigo Plateau. Take a cheeky little heal, and now it's time to say thank you to the HM friends. So it's thank you to Kenya, to Abra, to Psyduck, and Melcy to Paris. We'll buy our 4 full restores, which we'll either need or we won't need throughout the league. We'll drop down a hard save before the league, just in case we can't make it through, and we'll take a look at our stats. We are level 58 with 123 HP. We're holding the Quick Claw, and our moves are Return, Earthquake, Rollout, and Safeguard. We've got 59 in attack, 313 in defense, 58 in special attack, 313 in special defense, and 51 in speed. We are still as lopsided as we were at the beginning of the league, but let's see how far we can make it through. Our first league member is Will, the Psychic type trainer who leads with Xatu. We take a very quick reset as we got Confused Raid on turn 1 and we try again. This time the Safeguard hits, and that means we're able to get through without being confused. We build up the rollout and it's super effective against both Xatu and Jinx. Out comes the Slowbro and we're able to 2-shot it with rollout, and then we get to building it once more. We get confused because of the second Xatu, because I didn't use a Safeguard this time, but we're able to get a little bit lucky and knock it out in just a couple of hits. We don't hit ourselves in confusion against the Executor, and our second turn of rollout knocks it out to get through Will in a time of 2 hours, 30 minutes and 32 seconds. Up next is Koga, the Poison type specialist. He leads with Ariados, which is very fortuitous for us because Ariados is weak to rock type moves. Koga tries to outsmart us though by baton passing a double team onto Fortress, but our rollout is no match for this Fortress. Even with the Protect thrown in for good measure, we're able to knock it out in 3 turns, and he sends out his Muck. Rollout's almost at max power, so the Muck goes down in a single hit, but we miss our 5th turn against the Crobat. That means we're going to have to start building up all over again. We miss another rollout as he full restores, and now we're on our 3rd set of rollouts against this Crobat. We knock it out on turn number 3 though, and that just leaves Ariados and Venomoth left to go. And with both of those being weak to rock, he stands absolutely no chance, and we get through Koga in a time of 2 hours, 31 minutes and 26 seconds. Up next is Bruno. Bruno, of course, is a fighting type specialist who leads with Hitmontop. And here we have nothing too great at all to deal with him. The crux of our strategy so far has been to set up a Safeguard and then try building up rollout as powerful as it can go. However, every single one of Bruno's Pokemon resists the rock type, and that means that rollout is only going to be dealing half damage. When you combine that with the fact that both Onix and Machamp know rock slide, we have a recipe for disaster. No matter how many times I tried, I could just not get through this Machamp. No matter what I did, he always had the answer because of rock slide. And so I believe for one of the very first times on these runs, I decide to take the loss and leave the Pokemon League. We're going to have to get through both Will and Koga again, but I think we're going to need extra levels for Bruno. We can keep most of our training in Kanto as we skipped a lot of trainers on routes 26 and 27 up to Victory Road, and we're not going to be able to get too much experience in a quick amount of time, but with the high-ish level trainers easily accessible to us, we're able to scrape out enough experience points to grow up to level 60. That's a 2-level advantage compared to where we were last time going into the league, and hopefully this will be enough in and of itself to at least see how Karen fares. But for now we'll fly back to the Indigo Plateau, and for the second time we'll heal up whether we need it or not. For the second time as well we'll say thank you to Kenya, to Abra, to Psyduck, and merci to Paris, and we'll take a look at our stats once more. We are now level 60 with 127 HP. We're still holding the Quick Claw, and our moves are Earthquake, Return, Safeguard, and Rollout. We've got 62 in attack, 324 in defense, 60 in special attack, 324 in special defense, and 54 in speed. Now let's resume the action in the Pokemon League once again with Bruno. And we start off yet again against his Hitmontop, and we have a much better time against him this time. The Quick Claw procs to make sure we take no damage whatsoever, and Earthquake is now a 2-shot against the Onix. Let's move on to that pesky Machamp once more. We still don't have anything too great against the Machamp, but Rock Slide is dealing a lot less damage. We get him into healing range and we start the Earthquake yet again. We're stuck on 10 HP though, another Rock Slide hits, so we have to start all over again. So we're back onto Hitmontop and we take a whole 5 HP worth of damage from the dig. The Onix comes out and misses Rock Slide twice in a row, and that means we're almost at full health for the Machamp. Rock Slide starts to hit, and even though it doesn't hit very hard with each turn, it soon starts to hurt. We get a stroke of good luck though as Bruno early heals his Machamp, and that combined with a critical hit return knocks it out in 3 shots, and we are on to the Hitmonlee. Hitmonlee's double kick barely tickles us as it hits us 4 times in a row. We knock it out, and there's just 1 Pokemon left to go. That is Hitmonchan, who barely hits us at all, and we knock it out in a couple of hits, and we're through Bruno in a time of 2:46.45. Let's take on Karen, the Dark-type specialist who leads with Umbreon. We set up a safeguard, but Sand Attack hits through the safeguard regardless, and we start trying to build up a rollout. Unfortunately for us though, that single Sand Attack is enough for us to need to take a reset. We get confused on turn 1 against Umbreon this time, but it only lasts 1 turn, and that means we are now on full accuracy against the Umbreon. We knock it out in 3 shots and we are on to the Vileplume. The safeguard falls, but that doesn't matter as we one-shot the Vileplume, and here comes the Gengar. We don't quite one-shot the Gengar, and we are now cursed for the rest of this battle. We start setting up the rollout against her Murkrow, and it's 2 shots to knock it out, and that just leaves Houndoom left to go. Houndoom is weak to rock, so it wouldn't even matter if we were burnt. We knocked it out, and we get through Karen in a time of 2 hours, 53 minutes, and 3 seconds. There is still hope for getting through this league in under 3 hours. Let's now take on Lance, the liar with the flyers. He leads with Gyarados. We start with a safeguard against Gyarados to try and protect us from his pesky Dragonite, and then we get to returning. I decide that return is a bad strategy and start all over again, and we just go for the rollout straight off the bat. It's 2 shots against the Gyarados, and here comes the Aerodactyl. We don't get flinched by Rock Slide and we one-shot it away, and the first of the 3 Dragonite comes out. That one isn't the pesky one though, because it doesn't have Thunder Wave on his learn set, and then the pesky pair of Thunder Waving Dragonites come out to play. Our HP is now low enough though that he will not prioritise the status move. He will go straight for the knockout, and that means we don't have a status condition as the Charizard comes out. We survive on 6 HP and we knock it out in 1 shot to get through the league in a time of 3 hours and 21 seconds. Our final league time is 3 hours and 37 seconds, which is slightly above the time we wanted of 3 hours, but still it's a very valiant effort. But we're not done yet. We've got another 8 badges and the red fight left to go, so don't you dare go anywhere, because Kanto is next. And we are back, where it all began outside our home in Newbark Town. Professor Elm's got a phone call for us because he's got the SS ticket to give to us, but the more pressing issue at the moment is we have about 47 minutes to get through Kanto in order to beat Magcargo's time. It's gonna be tight, but there is a chance that Magcargo could still be at the bottom of the leaderboard. We'll say welcome back to Kenya, Abra, Psyduck, and bienvenue to Paris, and we'll make our way to get the final 2 rare candies of the Johto region. The first, of course, is in Mount Mortar, where we're also going to pick up the Defense Curl TM, and then we'll take a little fly over to Olivine City and pick up the second one in the Whirl Islands. And with both of those safely tucked away in our bag, we'll do a hop, skip and a jump and find ourselves in Vermilion City. And of course, the first thing we do in Kanto is the last thing we do in Johto. We're going to get another rare candy, this time from the chairman of the Pokemon Fan Club. With that one packed away along with the others, we'll make a trip north into Saffron City, but it's only a fleeting visit as our first destination is Celadon City. We'll climb up to the top of the Celadon condominiums where we get the TM for Curse. Even though we don't want to teach it quite yet, I think it's a good idea to let our Shuckle swear if it wants to. We'll grab the leftovers from the cafe, we'll grab the PP up from the bush, and then we'll head into our next gym. This one, of course, is Erica's Grass Gym. It's our 9th gym together, and she will lead with Tangela. We start off with a safeguard because that Tangela loves its stasis conditions, and then we get to rolling out. We're just going to have to let the rollout build and hope for the best. We get through the Tangela and we are through the Victory Bell in one shot, and that brings us on to Jumpluff. Jumpluff is weak to rock, so we knock it out in a single hit, and her final Pokemon is Bellossom. Bellossom takes in the sunlight and hits us with a solar beam, but it barely tickles us, and we get the Rainbow Badge in a time of 3 hours, 7 minutes and 3 seconds. Up next is Misty. Misty, of course, being the water type specialist of Cerulean Gym. She is our 10th gym leader together who led with Golduck, and we knock that out in 4 shots. Here comes the Quagsire, and we have an issue against Misty, because no matter what we do, the Lapras will perish song us, and we will not be able to knock out her final 2 Pokemon, so we're going to go on the grind. With Shuckle, it was inevitable that we would have had to do the grinding at some point, so I decide to get it all done straight away. And so I decide to do a whistle-stop tour of all the Cantonian gyms, and then I take on every available gym trainer. This serves 2 purposes, because not only do we get the experience, we're also unlocking fly points and making our second trip around the Kanto region an awful lot quicker. However, there's only so many gym trainers we can take on before we run out, and with us being agonisingly close to level 69 already, I just go east of Saffron City and take on a single biker to get us over the mark. That means we are going to take on Misty yet again, this time at level 69. So let's see if those 3 levels in 10 minutes were worth it as we take on Misty yet again. She still leads with Golduck, who likes to surf, but this time we're going for the return strategy. It's 2 shots to knock out the Golduck and we are on to the Quagsire. Quagsire is still looking like a 3-shot with return, and we take a significant amount of damage from the surf, and here comes the Lapras. Lapras uses Perish Song yet again, but we get a lucky critical hit to knock it out, and we are on to the Starmie. We have to get a critical hit here to knock it out, which we don't, and so we try again. That Lapras's Perish Song really is the bane of our existence, and it's all because we have the bug typing. If we didn't have the bug typing, the Starmie would come out before the Lapras, and we would stand a chance of getting through. We're now back onto the Lapras though, and we are doing the rollout strategy. We knock it out in 1 shot, and here comes the Starmie. Even with our ridiculous special defense, Surf is hitting us very hard, but we get a quick claw proc and we knock it out and get the Cascade badge in a time of 3 hours, 23 minutes and 7 seconds. Let's now move on to Sabrina. She of course is the Psychic type specialist who leads with Espeon. We're just going to try and brute force this gym with Return. We knock out the Espeon in 2 shots and it's looking like a 3 hits for the Alakazam. And then that just leaves Mr. Mime left to go. We start hitting it with Return as he tries to baton pass twice. The Reflect fades, we knock it out, we grow to level 70, and we are through Sabrina in a time of 3 hours, 23 minutes and 56 seconds. Up next is Surge, and this could be a little bit of a respite for us. We set up the safeguard to make sure we don't get paralysed, and then we get to Earthquaking. All of Surge's Pokemon are at least 2 times weak to Earthquake, and that gives us a lovely little rest in what has been a very difficult Kanto section so far. The only hindrance that Surge can provide is a little bit of double teaming to waste some PP, but other than that it is smooth sailing and we get the Thunder Badge in a time of 3 hours, 24 minutes and 53 seconds. Let's now move on to Brock. Brock of course being our 13th gym together who leads with Graveler, and yet again all of his Pokemon are weak to Earthquake. Unlike Surge, most of his Pokemon carry a fair bit of bulk, and that means it's going to be 2 shots for the lion's share of the Pokemon. We get through Graveler, Omastar and Onyx taking just 3 HP's worth of damage, and then Kabutops' Surf is very weak. He manages to use an Endure though to waste another turn, and that just leaves Rhyhorn left to go. We've got no Earthquakes left, so we finish it off with a return, and we are through Brock in a time of 3 hours 25 minutes and 49 seconds. Let's now move on straight away to Blaine. Blaine of course is a Fire-type specialist of Cinnabar Island, and he leads with Magcargo. And we have 21 minutes left to go to defeat Magcargo's time. We get through that in one shot, and the same with the Bumhead Fireduck. The Rapidash gets outsped with the Quick Claw and gets itself caught in a healing loop. We manage to take it down in just 2 further hits to knock out all of Blaine's Pokemon in a time of 3 hours 26 minutes and 39 seconds. Our penultimate gym leader is everybody's favourite pushover, it's Janine. She leads with Crobat and we start with a Safeguard. We absolutely do not want to get confused by her. Wing Attack takes off a total of 39 HP as we knock out the Golbat, and we knock out the first Weezing in one shot. Our rollout misses though, and then we have to build it up again. We get poisoned by the Sludge Bomb though, and the tide turns against us. We for the very first time in a long time take a reset against Janine, and we have to start all over again. Such is the nature of a beast of a 90% accurate move, sometimes it misses exactly when you need it to hit. We're back onto her second Weezing now though, and this time rollout hits so we don't get poisoned by Sludge Bomb. And that just brings us on to Janine's final 2 Pokemon. A pair of bug poison types in Venomoth and Ariados. We knock them out in 3 hits combined, and we get the Soul Badge in a time of 3 hours 28 minutes and 19 seconds. That is all but one of our gym badges done. Let's now make our way over to Viridian City where our 16th and final gym battle awaits us. This is Blue, the mixed type specialist of Viridian City, who will lead with Pidgeot. Now Pidgeot sees our rock typing and goes for Whirlwind, so we have to run to the Pokemon Center, deposit our HM friends and start all over again. We're able to get a bit of funky AI with Blue's Pidgeot though, as he keeps going for Whirlwind even though Shuckle is the only Pokemon in our party, and that means we only lost 2 HP for the Rhydon. Rhydon gets to Rock Sliding, but we somehow manage to outspeed, and 4 Earthquakes later we knock it out, surviving on 107 HP. Here comes the Gyarados, and we start to use Return. This seems to be a bad play though, because 1 Hydro Pump to the face and we're already down to 44 HP, and he gets himself into a healing loop. In hindsight, rollout would have been better, but at this point in the run I am severely fatigued. Across the last 55 runs, the average time has been about 1 hour and 55 minutes, so I had been playing for 1.5 hours longer than normal at this point, and this is where the brain starts to lose a little bit of focus. However, we're still going to give it our best shot. One of my unwritten rules for this run is we play it in one sitting, because I like to experience the Pokemon from start to finish. But now we are back onto the Gyarados and we get to rolling out. We only get hit by a single Hydro Pump this time, and that puts us in very good stead for his final 3 Pokemon. The Exeggutor comes out, we evade the Leech Seed, and our rollout is enough to get him into a healing loop, so we knock it out with our 5th turn of rollout, and that just leaves Arcanine and Alakazam left to go. We get the rollout started once more as he starts hitting us with Psychic. The Reflect doesn't go up against the Alakazam, and that means we knock it out in 3 shots. The Arcanine comes out, the Quick Claw activates, we knock it out in 1 shot with a critical hit, and we are through Blue in a time of 3 hours 33 minutes and 42 seconds. We have 13 minutes left to go. We have the chance to beat Magcargo's time, but it is going to be very close. Let me know in the comments down below, do you think Shuckle is going to beat Magcargo? I genuinely had no idea at this point. I had a rough strategy in mind for Red at this point, but it depends on a little bit of luck. So let's head into Mount Silver and say this is Red, the final trainer of the run, and he leads with Pikachu. We start on turn 1 by safeguarding, but we get charmed. We are looking for the charm dodge, because he only ever tries to do it on turn 1, and then the Pikachu gets to thundering. We set up the rollout and we knock out the Pikachu in 3 turns, so he sends out Blastoise. We know from the Pseudo-Wudo run that there's a 50% chance of the AI using a trapping move if you're in rollout, and that's exactly what Blastoise does to keep us in the green for the Snorlax. We have to build up the rollouts yet again though, and we get paralysed by the Body Slam. The major downside to having rollout is that we cannot set up another safeguard if we are mid-rollout. We weren't that time and I got a little bit overconfident, but there are going to be other times where we aren't able to prevent the status condition. And here we can see Gen 2's RNG in action. We're back onto the Blastoise and this time he goes for Rain Dance and Surf, so we're going to use another 3 rare candies to get up to level 78. We're back onto the Pikachu, we use the Safeguard as Charm misses, and we go for the Rollout yet again. Rollout is our highest base power move, so it makes sense to use it even against the Pikachu, because that means that the Rain Dance is less likely from the Blastoise. It happened again this time, but we were able to survive and see just how bad Snorlax is with a Safeguard rollout strategy. And the answer, unfortunately, is quite bad. We're taking 15 HP's worth of damage every single turn, but we're only recovering 10. And that means that Snorlax whittles us all the way down to 41 growing to 51 for the Venusaur. Fortunately though, the Venusaur is free with a single rollout and we are on to the Charizard. Flamethrower gets a critical hit and knocks us out. Let's now use our final 4 rare candies. We are now at level 82. We don't get paralysed by the first Thunder of the Pikachu, and then we get to rolling out. Thunder only hits us twice, and that means we are comfortably in the green for the Blastoise. The Blastoise goes for Surf on turn 1 and Rain Dance on turn 2, and that means we are on significantly less damage for the Snorlax. Our rollout has ended by the time Snorlax comes out though, so we start a Safeguard and then we get to building it once more. We are not taking any chances whatsoever because we do not want to get paralysed. We knock it out in 4 turns and here comes the Venusaur. The Venusaur is free as he sets up Sunny Day in place of the Rain Dance, and the next Pokemon is Charizard. Flamethrower hits us for an awful lot of damage, but we are 4 times super effective against the Zard, and we are on 99 HP for the Espeon. That grows up to 109 as he sets up a Reflect. Psychic hits for a critical hit, but we just need 1 more hit left to go, and he crits again. And that was devastating. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you all, at this point I conceded defeat. I thought we had the best opportunity ever there to just sneak in behind Magcargo's time, but instead we lost it all because of 2 critical hits. I decided to try and rush through the Elite Four to get just a couple of levels to get us some more bulk and maybe get through the Pikachu and Blastoise within 4 rollouts to try and knock out the Snorlax in a single hit to save some time. We get our first level against Koga and then we move on to Karen. These battles though were still very long and very difficult. Other Pokemon, even if they struggled against Red, would have a breeze at the league at this point. However, Shuckle's spectacularly low attack means that we still aren't hitting hard at all. And we'll see that again here against the Umbreon. Karen decides to play ball though as she uses Mean Luck and a failed Sand Attack to get through in 3 shots. We knock out the Vileplume on our next hit, and here comes the Gengar. The Gengar swears at us to get rid of half of its HP, and she's only got Murkrow and Houndoom left to go. Both of those are weak to Rock type, but right at the very end she decides to stop cooperating. We get Whirlwinded, but the only effect of that is breaking our rollout combo. Abra did nothing in battle and was knocked out before it got a chance to move. We one-shot the Houndoom and we're through Karen in 3:44:36. We're back to Mount Silver at the 3:46 mark and I try to get one last encounter. This Poliwhirl will be enough to get us up to level 75. I knock it out in 2 shots and I race myself back towards Red. I still want to get the best time possible on the day for Shuckle, but we have a bit of a disaster. We cannot get a good battle going for 4 attempts in a row because we kept getting charmed and or paralysed. But eventually on reset 133, we start to get a battle going. It's 2 shots on the Pikachu to knock it out with rollout, and then Blastoise uses Whirlpool. This is huge for us. We are now also able to knock out the Blastoise in 2 hits with rollout, and that means we are on turn 5 for the Snorlax. And this is one of the breakthroughs we have been looking for. We one-shot the Snorlax and that means we can set up against the Venusaur instead. We use a curse against the Venusaur as he takes in Sunlight, and then we get to rolling out once more. Our attack and defense have both been increased by 1. We critical hit the Venusaur and we are on to the Charizard. Charizard's Fire Spin misses, we knock it out in one shot, and now it's back against the Espeon. And as an act of revenge for knocking us out with 2 crits before, we one-shot it and we defeat Red in a time of 3 hours, 49 minutes and 21 seconds. And I really do not think it is a secret anymore. 3 hours, 49 minutes and 20 seconds on the retime is slower than Magcargo and puts us down in 55th place. After 50 runs, there is something slower than Magcargo. It has been so long, but I am so glad Magcargo has some company. That does of course mean though that there is no change on the other sides of the leaderboard. Heracross is still in 11th place and Piloswine is next in the page 3 drop zone. Porygon 2 is still in 1st place after its phenomenal run in the last video, and Quillfish is still next in the drop zone down to page 2. But with that, we are done. So I'm going to say thank you all so much for watching, it's been a pleasure as always. If you enjoyed this run, then please do leave it a like. If you want to see more runs just like this, then please do subscribe. If you've got any feedback at all, leave it in the comments below. And until next time, I'll say thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all very, very soon.